My manager stole my project, my credit, and even an award. So I gave her just enough rope and let her hang herself, live, in front of the CEO, the board, and the entire company. I used to be one of those people who kept their head down, did their job, and minded their business. Not because I was timid or lacked ambition, but because I believed hard work spoke for itself. Naive? Maybe. But back then, I really thought people like Karen eventually got what was coming to them without me needing to interfere. That belief didn't age well. I was hired as a mid-level data analyst at a mid-sized tech company. Nothing groundbreaking, just the kind of place where the coffee was always lukewarm. HR emailed about Wellness Wednesday, and your career could either quietly blossom or rot in a cubicle, depending on who you reported to. Guess which one I got? Karen was one of those managers who had clearly failed upward. You know the type. Bright blazers, passive-aggressive sticky notes, constantly looping in irrelevant people on email threads to look busy. She didn't understand half of what we did on the analytics team, but she was good at throwing around buzzwords like synergy and data storytelling. Honestly, it was impressive how confidently wrong she could be. The first few months, I didn't care. Let her collect her undeserved praise. I just wanted to do good work. And to be fair, my workload was steady, my teammates were decent, and I actually liked solving the problems thrown at us. It gave me a sense of control in a world that increasingly felt like a car on fire rolling down a hill. But then came the first incident. We were working on a Q2 board meeting report, a huge deal. I volunteered to lead the data gathering, the visuals, and the predictive models. It was one of those grind projects. Think, 3 weeks of bad sleep, too much caffeine, and muttering, just one more regression run, to yourself like a maniac. I stayed late. I double-checked every number. Hell, I even color-coded the charts for executive brains. The day of the meeting, I sat in the back with a coffee and watched Karen take the stage with the report I built from scratch. She clicked through slide after slide of my work, and then someone from the board clapped and said, "This is really well done." Karen smiled and said, "Thanks. I stayed up so late this week making sure it was perfect." That was the moment. The pivot point. I remember gripping my coffee so tightly I thought the lid might pop off. I looked around. Nobody said anything. My teammates were quiet. Some of them looked at me sympathetically. Others avoided eye contact like my humiliation might be contagious. I went home that night feeling like I had swallowed concrete. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because I still believed, deep down, that someone would notice. That if I just kept doing good work, the right people would see it. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Over the next few months, the pattern continued. Dashboard? I built it. Karen presented it. Proposal? I wrote it. Karen pitched it. Ideas and brainstorming sessions? I shared them. Karen repeated them, louder, 5 minutes later, and got nods of approval. I started documenting everything. Not because I had a plan yet, but because something inside me had snapped. I couldn't let this keep happening. I was tired of feeling invisible. Tired of staying up till 2 a.m. triple-checking SQL queries so Karen could waltz in at 10 a.m. and mispronounce half the terms in a meeting she didn't prep for. And then came the final straw. There was a company-wide innovation awards thing. You know, corporate fluff to boost morale. Submit a project, get a bonus, maybe a feature in the newsletter. I'd been working on a machine learning project to predict customer churn. It was months of effort, and I'd even built a slick interface so non-tech teams could use it easily. I hadn't submitted it yet. I wanted it to be airtight. I mentioned it to Karen during a check-in, thinking maybe she'd help me polish the submission. A week later, I opened the company newsletter, and there it was. Congratulations to Karen H., winner of this quarter's Innovation and Data Award. The project? My project. Not a mention of my name. Not a footnote. Nothing. Karen walked past my desk that day smiling like she'd just cured cancer. Said something like, "You're really helping the team shine." I didn't reply. I couldn't. I was too busy trying not to break my keyboard in half. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor of my apartment, back against the wall, laptop open, staring at the award announcement. Rage isn't even the word. I felt hollow. Like someone had taken all the effort, creativity, and sweat I'd poured into this job and just airbrushed it with Karen's name. That's when I knew. I wasn't going to let this go. Not anymore. If the company couldn't see the truth, I was going to show them. Loudly. And publicly. Because Karen wasn't just stealing credit. She was stealing my career. And I was about to take it back. I didn't jump into revenge right away. No, this had to be perfect. The kind of takedown you don't recover from, not just a slap on the wrist. I wanted Karen exposed, not just to our team or our department, but to the entire company. If she was going to climb the corporate ladder on my back, I was going to make sure she fell from the top rung in front of everyone. So I started small. I watched, listened. I studied her behavior like I was analyzing a wild animal. Karen had a pattern, a routine. She never did more than she had to. She never read anything all the way through. She didn't understand the tools we used. She just knew which buttons to click to look like she did. But most importantly, Karen never asked questions, which was good because I was going to give her all the rope she needed to hang herself. I began by subtly altering things, small edits to my dashboards, tweaks to my reports. Not errors, not sabotage, just complexity. I layered queries, changed data sources, used variable names that sounded similar but had completely different logic paths. Stuff that required actual understanding to navigate. Karen never noticed. She was too busy relabeling my work with her name on it. I also started keeping receipts. Every file, every line of code, every version. I backed everything up to my personal cloud storage, timestamped, annotated, watermarked if I had time. Every deliverable that had my fingerprints on it was locked down. If I was going to bring the thunder, I needed proof when the storm hit. Around this time, I started planting seeds. Karen loved buzzwords, but hated digging into the actual implementation. So in meetings, I began referencing obscure analytics terms. Bayesian optimization, multicollinearity mitigation, ensemble learning for categorical drift. She nodded along like she knew what I was saying. I dropped those same terms into our project documents. Karen would eventually regurgitate them to other managers. I heard through the grapevine that she tried to explain one of my concepts in a leadership meeting and absolutely fumbled it. Her words didn't even make sense. Something about linear decisioning using nonlinear pivots. Whatever that means. People started to notice. Quietly at first. But they noticed. Then came the big opportunity. Our company had this annual all-hands meeting. It was like the Super Bowl for managers, show and tell, but with more coffee and corporate lingo. Each team lead was supposed to present a strategy, innovation, or tool they had developed to help the broader company. Karen, naturally, volunteered to present my customer churn dashboard, the very same one she submitted for the Innovation Award. I found out through a calendar invite. She didn't even tell me. Just scheduled the prep meeting and dropped the link in Slack with team. Let's make this presentation shine. No credit. No recognition. Just a corporate drive-by. I smiled. This was it. My chance. I opened the dashboard file on my computer. I stared at it for a long time. The interface was clean, the filters intuitive, the visualizations elegant. It was built to be idiot-proof, and that's what I needed to change. So I made it idiot-exposing instead. The trap needed to be subtle, something that wouldn't go off unless Karen tried to use the dashboard the way I knew she would. She always liked to show off the interactivity during presentations, clicking filters, changing drop-downs, pretending to drill into the data. That was my trigger point. I wrote a tiny piece of code, a hidden pop-up message embedded in the logic, not visible to the naked eye, not on the surface layer, but deep enough that it only appeared when a specific drop-down was used. The message? If you're seeing this, Karen is presenting my work without credit. This dashboard was designed and built by Marcus, and I'd be happy to explain how it actually works. Feel free to contact me. I added a polite smiley emoji just to really twist the knife. Now, this wasn't just a note. This was my signature. A subtle, professional nuke. And I didn't stop there. I also changed the filter logic. Nothing that broke the dashboard, but if someone unfamiliar tried to use it live, the data would appear wrong unless you clicked the filters in a very specific order, which I, of course, had documented in the project guide, a guide Karen never read. The setup was complete. I pushed the final version to the internal system, marked it as ready, and waited. The day before the all-hands, Karen pinged me. Hey, looks great. Thanks for polishing it up. I'll take it from here, smiley face. Of course she would. And I let her. The day of the all-hands felt like the Super Bowl, the Oscars, and a hostage negotiation all rolled into one. Everyone was nervous, caffeinated, and pretending not to be competing for clout. It was a massive virtual meeting, company-wide. Hundreds of employees tuning in from home. C-level execs, department heads, team leads, interns, everyone. Our CEO kicked things off with some generic motivational fluff about collaboration and innovation at scale. Someone cracked a joke about corporate synergy in the chat. I barely paid attention. I had one tab open for the meeting and another open with my dashboard backend, watching, waiting. I knew Karen was slotted for the third presentation. I watched her little Zoom box as she nodded along to the first two speakers, pretending to be engaged. She wore her usual power blazer, bright red this time. She always dressed like she was going to war with Excel. Finally, the host announced, "Next up, we have Karen from the data strategy team, who's going to walk us through a powerful new dashboard for predicting customer churn." My dashboard. I leaned back in my chair, sipped my coffee, and smiled. Karen unmuted, all fake confidence and LinkedIn energy. "Hi, everyone. Really excited to share what our team has been working on." She launched into her script, completely rehearsed, obviously memorized, but filled with fluff. She clicked into the dashboard and started demoing the interface like she built it from scratch. She didn't. She never even looked under the hood. Then it happened. Right on cue, Karen clicked the drop-down filter labeled Client Segmentation. Boom. The pop-up appeared. Big. Bold. Smack in the center of the shared screen. If you're seeing this, Karen is presenting my work without credit. This dashboard was designed and built by Marcus, and I'd be happy to explain how it actually works. The chat froze. The silence was deafening. No mouse clicks. No typing. Just digital paralysis. Then came the first message. From someone on the product team. "Wait, Karen, did you build this?" Karen laughed nervously. Yes, this must be a leftover note from earlier development. Ignore that." Someone else chimed in. "Earlier development by who exactly?" Karen's face turned a shade of red no camera filter could fix. She clicked frantically, trying to dismiss the pop-up. It wouldn't close unless she selected Acknowledge, which I'd coded to gray out when she hovered over it. Then someone asked, "Is Marcus on this call?" "Oh yes. Yes, I was." I unmuted my mic slowly. "Hey, yeah, I built that dashboard." Karen must have been using one of my older test versions. Test version. That was me being generous. Karen panicked. "No, this was the final one you shared with me. With the team. We collaborated." "No," I said. "You asked me to polish it. I built it months ago. You submitted it to the awards without crediting me. I have the full version history, timestamps, and development logs if anyone's curious." Another person, "Wait, you won the Innovation Award for this." Someone from HR, bless their clueless soul, actually said, "This might need to be investigated." Karen was still fumbling, trying to explain how this was all a miscommunication. But her words were falling apart mid-sentence. She sounded like someone trying to lie on the spot without enough oxygen or brain cells. It was the longest 3 minutes I'd ever experienced. Then the host gently cut in. "Thank you, Karen. We'll follow up separately." The screen switched. Just like that, she was gone. No outro. No thank you. No applause. Dead air. And then, slowly, chat messages started flooding in. "Wow. Did that really just happen? Props to my name. That was clean. Yo, that was wild. Can we get Marcus to present instead?" I muted my mic, leaned back, and let the chaos wash over me like a warm bath of justified pettiness. Karen logged off the call halfway through the next presentation. She never came back on. After the meeting ended, I just sat there, staring at the screen, basking in the kind of satisfaction you don't often get in corporate life. Not a raise, not a shout-out, but something real. I didn't just call her out. I cornered her in front of everyone with nothing but her own arrogance and my clean, calculated planning. Then the Slack messages started. First from coworkers. "Dude, that was legendary. She's not coming back from that. I knew she wasn't doing that work. You okay? That was brutal, but deserved." Then from other teams I'd barely worked with. "Hey, saw what happened. Respect. We'd love to chat sometime about what you built. Do you do freelance?" I even got one from a senior engineer I'd never spoken to. Absolute power move. Best all hands ever. But the one that really mattered? It came from HR. Short and sweet. "Can we set up a time to chat?" Oh, there it was. The formal part of corporate drama. You always know it's serious when HR gets involved, not because they care about you, but because they care about liability. Still, I welcomed it. I had all the receipts. Every file. Every email. Every Slack exchange. And more importantly, witnesses. I went into that HR call calm as ever. They asked me to explain what happened, so I laid it out, chronologically. No extra emotion, no exaggeration. Just the facts. When I built the dashboard. When Karen took credit. When she submitted it to the awards. The exact changes I made to the demo version. The reason behind the pop-up. The intention to expose ongoing credit theft. Then I dropped the receipts, links, timestamps, screenshots. I was ready like a lawyer walking into court with color-coded folders. The HR rep was quiet for a while. Then they said, "We're going to need to follow up with Karen. You may be contacted again." And I said, "Happy to help." I logged off and got myself a donut. Later that afternoon, Karen sent me a DM. First one in weeks. "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. Then a second message. "This looks really bad. I think we should align on what we're saying." Now she wanted to align. Classic Karen. Still no reply. By the next morning, rumors were swirling. People talk in Slack channels. Even in companies that pretend to be professional, you can't stop the gossip train when it's going 200 miles an hour. One version I heard, that Karen blamed me for sabotaging the presentation. Another, that she told HR I'd hacked the dashboard. Laughable. I'd built the damn thing from scratch. They had evidence of that. A few days passed. Then it happened. Karen vanished. No goodbye message. No farewell Zoom. No, thank you for the opportunity email. Her profile picture disappeared. Her name removed from the org chart. Gone. Someone said she was put on immediate administrative leave pending review. But really, it was just a polite way of saying, pack your bag and don't come back. And let me tell you, when a manager disappears overnight with no explanation, people notice. The company newsletter that had once praised her for winning the award? Quietly edited. No mention of her name. Just Team Data Strategy, listed as the contributor. Then a week later, I got my email. From a senior director. "We'd like to speak with you about a potential team transition." I got promoted, not in title, but in placement. Moved to a more innovative, high-visibility team. Better projects, better manager, better culture. And my new manager? Actually valued my work. First thing he said when I joined was, "Heard about the dashboard incident. We don't do that here." It felt like stepping out of a thunderstorm into a warm kitchen with fresh cookies. Meanwhile, Karen? Nobody ever spoke her name again. It was like she'd been scrubbed from the building's history. Like an embarrassing PR mistake the company wanted to bury in a shallow grave. But people remembered. Oh, they did. Every time I presented something in meetings, someone would say, "Wait, are you the dashboard guy?" I was. And I made damn sure no one forgot it. If you've ever worked in a corporate environment, you know that reputations spread fast, faster than memos, faster than email threads, faster than catered lunch schedules. But when something juicy happens, something scandalous, that spreads like a house fire in a paper factory. Within a week of the all-hands debacle, I went from being just one of the data guys to the guy who exposed his boss live in front of the entire company. People started acting different. The same folks who used to ignore my emails, suddenly quick to respond. Managers I'd never worked with before started tagging me in group chats and asking for a quick data consult. And then there were the invitations, lunches, virtual coffee meetings, and even an invite to speak at a cross-departmental strategy session. None of this was about friendship. This was recognition and power. See, Karen's downfall didn't just remove a roadblock. It spotlit the dysfunction in the system. Everyone had a Karen. Every team had that one manager or lead who hogged the spotlight, stifled talent, or coasted off other people's work. My situation? It was a catalyst. A spark that reminded everyone to watch their own backs and take note of who was actually doing the heavy lifting. And me? I became a kind of symbol. Quiet guy. Head down. Got his moment. Took down Goliath. I didn't lean into it too hard. I didn't brag. I didn't tweet about it. I didn't even mention it in meetings unless someone brought it up first. But I made sure that everything I worked on moving forward had my name on it. I updated every file, every report, every dashboard footer with a creator tag. Built by Marcus. Because now people were looking. And I wanted them to know exactly where credit belonged. Meanwhile, my new manager was everything Karen wasn't. He actually read reports. He asked good questions. He challenged me, but in a way that made the work better, not just harder. He also made it clear that he'd seen my receipts, knew what had happened, and that he wouldn't tolerate credit confusion on his team. God, it was refreshing. But Karen's ghost still lingered in conversations. Her name became shorthand. Let's make sure this doesn't become another Karen situation. Don't pull a Karen. Can someone double-check the attribution before we Karen this? Her legacy was reduced to a punchline, and I reveled in it. I didn't need to post about my revenge journey on LinkedIn. I didn't need a plaque. The satisfaction came from the quiet changes. The junior analyst who came to me and said, "Thanks, man. That could have been me." The teammate who said, "You gave the rest of us permission to push back." The exec who forwarded a project I worked on and added, "Great work by my name." Make sure he's looped into the follow-up. Corporate recognition doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with doors quietly opening where they used to be locked. It comes with people remembering you when it's time to staff something big. It comes with job security, not just from performance, but from visibility. And my visibility skyrocketed.